Well, hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Chicago. It's raining. It's 10:47 in the AM here. I'm starting my live stream a bit early today because we got a few sailboats here. And even though it's a rainy, dreary day, they're doing a bridge lift. They already went through the Michigan Avenue Bridge. So the DeSable Michigan Avenue Bridge, they're already past there. There's the Wrigley Building. There's the Tribune Tower. Here we got the water. Well, it's not the water taxi. This is an architectural cruise boat that's docking there. See, the Wabash Bridge is in the upright position here. So they just opened it. We'll be able to see it close. And we'll be able to follow along here and see these sailboats pulse through these bascule drawbridges that are found in downtown Chicago. We cross these all the time. And there's the sailboats there. This choreography goes on in the spring and the fall. In the spring we film it. The boats, they because we live in a cold winter climate, the boats have to get out of the Lake Michigan, all the harbors, and they have to go to dry storage in wintertime. This is the fall. The fall, they reverse the whole thing. They head back into their dry storage. And these boats have had a nice long summer season here, sailing on Lake Michigan, and now they're heading down the Chicago River. They're going to head back for the winter dry storage, and they got to head under dozens of drawbridges to do it, and they do it Wednesdays and Saturdays, usually in the fall and spring. It doesn't happen, it depends on how many boats they get, and there's a web page where they usually, a few hours before this, they say whether it's confirmed or not. They said it's confirmed. It's raining. We walked to work in the cloud cover, but now we got this drizzle that's probably going to stick around the entire time I'm filming here. But hey, I want to catch these bascule bridges in the upright position here. Thanks for tuning in here. And of course, if you miss any of this, you can watch the rerun. There'll be a rerun on the live tab there on my YouTube page there, Brian Really Chicago. And I'm sure we'll probably cut out clips and transfer it over to TikTok. So here, look at that. We got a sailboat heading under the Wabash Bridge in the upright position. We're looking north here. And see, look at the weight. Perfectly balanced on the fulcrum there. It takes a small equivalent of a car horsepower motor to lift these things. Tons and tons of steel. See people. There's the Chicago police there. And we'll get under the shelter of the bridge here. And we'll watch these boats fall through here. Look at that. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. So there it is. So I'm gonna have to switch back and forth. I got some trades going on here, and volatility started to pick up on the market here, which makes it interesting for me here. So I got to make some trades. Maybe we might see some of these people we know. We film this every year. We've been doing it the past 2 years here. And hello, how you doing there? Thanks for tuning in there. Art boy, how you doing? Thanks for checking out the Chicago River here. Hey, how you doing there? Hey, how you doing? Yeah, what a rainy day here, but thanks. They're still doing the bridge lift here. Yeah, look at that nice. There's the sailboats, people saying hello there. And yeah, we'll get the Wabash Avenue Bridge here. I'll try to get under the shelter of the State Street Bridge, and maybe we can film this thing lowering. Look at the Wrigley Building there. Yeah. Success the movie. You must be really bored. You're watching me do a bridge lift here, and you're looking for movies there. Yeah, I know. It shows the modern dilemma. We have literally thousands and thousands of channels, endless entertainment at your disposal there, and you're still asking me for suggestions. I appreciate it. Here we go. So here's the Wabash Avenue Bridge. It's coming. It's lowering there. I'm still getting wet here, so we'll try to head under the bridge here. We saw the fishermen here earlier today. There's the Wabash Avenue Bridge lowering here, and they're gonna probably just lift half of the State Street Bridge here. Yeah, most beautiful city here. So while we're waiting for the State Street Bridge to open, we'll watch the Wabash Bascule Bridge close here. And yeah, Dixon, Kartik, Art Boy, Fausto, Uncle Luke, thanks for tuning in there. Milo, Ish. Ubo. Ish. Prince, how you doing there? We know Prince. Milo, how you doing in it? So, Prince, we got the bridge lift here. Remember, I was going to try to film it the other day. Now it's raining, and here we are. So what I'm going to do is I need to make some trades here. So while we're waiting around here, I'm going to switch to the other phone here. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. Sell. I got to sell some stuff here today. 8-3. Done. There we go. Bear with me a second here. I'm still here. I'm just doing something on the other phone here. Hey, there's a architectural tour boat heading through there. Let me get back so I don't drop my phone into the water here. Yeah, it's a little rain there. So I'm not going to get into, you know, what I'm doing here. Let's see here. Thanks for the question there. No, I'm just generally betting that volatility is going to increase. The volatility's been really low despite the government shutdown and despite the ongoing turmoil throughout the world. And there's some crazy financial weird things going on. Here we go. Here's the here's the State Street Bridge. They're just opening the northern half. So let's go further down the Riverwalk here. See, they're doing construction here. We just went to Wabash State Street. We're heading towards Dearborn Street. We're doing a bridge lift. You see how low cloud cover we have here? It's probably about 600-700 foot cloud cover because the top of the Salesforce Tower, top of the Trump Tower's in the clouds there. So we got rain there. They're opening the State Street Bridge here. Hopefully this rain will taper off. And we're watching the sailboats fall through these Basco Bridge here, Chicago Riverwalk here. We're in between Dearborn Street and State Street. They're only open half of State Street because it's under construction. And we're by the City Winery here, the Leo Burnett building. There's the shoreline waiting. The shoreline's waiting. I'm glad they're waiting because it gets really congested. We don't want to see any boat accidents like we saw a year ago. Jason, how you doing there? Colin? Yeah, thanks for Colin. Thanks for saying hello to people in Chicago here. Aisha, how you doing here? Thanks for tuning in. Uncle Luke, Paradise. Yeah, sick cargo. Hey, we got sirens. Well, sounds of the city. Of course, we got sirens. There's the State Street, the northern half, in the upright position. I'll try to get under this bridge to get out of the rain here. It's just drizzle right now. We got about upper 50s. Fahrenheit, and we'll watch these sailboats fall through here. Getting noisy. There's the shoreline there, they're waiting. So we'll get under this bridge and we'll get out of the rain here and we'll wait for the sailboats to head this way. This is Chicago, so this is the Chicago River, the Chicago Riverwalk. You're gonna get tired of me saying Chicago because just like you, people tune in and everybody has the same question, where's this at? And then they'll ask me to go somewhere else. So here, let's see what we got here. Let me see my last trade here. 1187, 1188. There we go, so 1189. I gotta do 1189. I'm trying to find the edges here. It's like feeling my way. You can feel the trades. There we go. So there we go. Okay, good. So hey, there's the sailboats. I don't know how many. We got about 3 sailboats. We only have 3 sailboats heading through here. No, 4 sailboats. I count 4 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 sailboats pulsing through. One time they did it only for 1 sailboat, and I'm sure a lot of the sailboats are waiting until later in the season. There's still some sailing days even here left in October here. See, there's the, let's see, we got the people in the bridge house there. They're getting ready. And this goes on usually Wednesday at lunchtime, Saturday at lunchtime. Fall and spring, they do bridge lifts for the sailboats. And you can get on the schedule there. There's the bright stars. We're underneath the Dearborn Bridge here, and we'll stick around. See, the cars are still moving across, so as long as the cars are still moving across, they haven't closed the gates at either side, so we'll stick around here. We'll watch the State Street Bridge close. I'm under the bridge because it is raining. You hear the drips there. It's got some light drizzle here in Chicago. So look how social media, no matter what, I'm filming a bridge lift here and someone wants to hijack it and talk about something completely unrelated to this. So we're not going to take the bait there. There's the sailboats here. They're pulsing through. We got a Chicago bridge lift here, and we'll continue to follow along. They'll head all the way toward the South Branch. They'll go all the way past the Sears Tower, head towards Chinatown. There's several more bridges to go. Some of this is a lot of waiting around, especially when they get to the Lake Street Bridge. Last 2 weeks ago, they took a long time. There's the State Street Bridge. There's the State Street Bridge lowering. We're looking east here. We're underneath the Dearborn Street Bridge. There's the State Street Bridge in Chicago. These bascule bridges, drawbridges, they lift for the sailboats. And they're still letting cars travel across here. So, yeah, there's some scaffolding. They clean the, sometimes they clean the stainless steel here with that scaffolding. You're going here next week. You're checking out Chicago. That's good. Yeah, we got Halloween. We got a lot of Halloween decorations out. We've been checking them out. So the 4 boats here. Let's go check out the sailboats here while they wait. I do have an umbrella, but you know, I'll only use it if it starts raining a little harder. We just got this slight drizzle here, enough to just be annoying. It's starting to taper off here, which is helping my job out. But here, welcome to Chicago here. We got a bridge lift here. I'm coming on early today because they start early. If I had wait to noon, they could be all the way past the Sears Tower at noon already, because they start early. They start at Lakeshore Drive and they head all the way down the South Branch here. There's the crew here. So we got Gallant, this boat, 5 sailboats. We got 5 sailboats here. How you doing? How you doing? Very nice. So here, we'll head through here. Yeah, very nice. See how they have to pull to the side and wait for the next bridge to open. And 5 boats isn't bad. Look at that box. There's a box just like a plastic milk crate floating in the river there. There, we're across from the Marina Towers. We're gonna wait for this Dearborn Street Bridge to open here. And it should go pretty fast until we get to Wells Street. Wells Street's problematic because the CTA trains go across there. Peace of Lisa, how you doing there, Uncle Luke? Aisha, yeah, Aisha knows Peace of Lisa there. BS Pro. Thanks, Lisa, for being on. I'm early today because they're doing this bridge lift. We're heading to the confluence. That's good. So we'll head around there. Some people. Very nice. Oh, you telling knock jokes? Where's D. Michael? D. Michael would tell you some jokes. Hey, there's some public restrooms there. Chicago Riverwalk. Yeah, we'll check out this map here. I'll show you this map along the Riverwalk while we're waiting. I got some nice pumpkins here. Hey, Chicago Riverwalk. See this logo? That's the confluence of the river. They use that all along here. We're right here. We're by Dearborn Street. We're by number 10. So they start in Lake Michigan. They go through the Lakeshore Drive Bridge and they go Columbus, Michigan Avenue, Wacker. We saw them do Wacker and State. Now they're going to do Dearborn, Clark, LaSalle, Wells, Orleans. Then you head down the South Branch. And so the sailboats are going to pulse through all these bridges and then they're going to head south. And there's several more bridges down that way which are off the map. There's the 5 sailboats. We got light drizzle here. Hey, that's okay. Thanks. I know, yeah, I know people got stuff to do. Thanks for being here. I know you got class and stuff. Hey, there we go. Here it is. They're opening the Dearborn. See how fast that goes? The Basco Bridge. It almost caught me by surprise there. And there's the House of Blues there. Their photo. I like that backpack. That's nice. Look at the weight of these Basco bridges here. They were perfected in Chicago. They used to have bridges that turned in the middle. Those were really problematic. These are much better. And look how fast they can lift these bridges. Tons and tons of steel and to let the boats through, and not that boat, they're going to let the sailboats through. So there's the workers there. There's somebody up in the bridge house here. See how there's a grate, so when you drive across them, that's why the Dave Matthews bus was able to empty the contents and spray the boat going underneath there, because the Kinsey Street Bridge that had happened has the same thing. They use a grate that reduces the weight of the bridge. The Columbus Avenue Bridge, they concrete some of the lanes over, and you see how the bike lanes, they put a material there. They try to keep the bridge as light as possible, just have the structural steel. And here we go. Yeah, we got 11:03 in the PM here, so you're probably in a different time zone there. I know people tune in from all over the world, different time zones. So here comes the sailboats. They're going to pulse through Dearborn Street. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sailboats. There they are. Very nice. So we're looking towards State Street. There's the Marina Towers. There's the Dearborn Street in the upright position. There goes the sailboats. There you go. Show my face. There you go. See, I don't work for ICE. I'm happy to show my face now because I can differentiate myself from ICE. And I used to find it like demeaning when people would demand to show my face, because, you know, the genre of live streamers, you're supposed to be seeing what I'm seeing, you know, but, you know, if it reassures people, there you go. And then you can make fun of my appearance, or you can make fun of the color of my skin, or whatever you want to do. Here's the, look at the dog there. The dog on the sailboat there. Yeah. See, look how fast they go through here. They're docking here at the Tiny Tap. See, you don't have to show your face. You can remain anonymous. I don't care to see your face. Thanks for tuning in. See, look at that guy up there. Look, they're in the bridge. That's amazing. That's awesome. That's great. They can get in there. And that's awesome that they can, when they can inspect the bridge, they can inspect. See, there's people over there. See, look at that. See, they're inspecting the bridge there, and you can look into, there's a counterweight down below there. There's a counterweight, and it's balanced on a fulcrum. That's how these bascule bridges work. And they're very nice. So they ding the bell because, see, they got the gates down. They're not allowing traffic. There's a bike lane that goes. People are watching from there. One time somebody was on the bridge on a bike, and they thought they could, they were like, get off the bridge, we're gonna lift it. And they were like, what? They should have just lifted and let them slide off. Yeah, of course the Marina Towers, the Corn Cob buildings was kind of a vanity address for a long time. You know, they're older. You know, that building's been up since the late 1960s. So the building itself is well over 50 years old. So they're wedges. You could, you know, there's pie-shaped wedges that go to the core. And some people have like 2 wedges. Some people have 1 or a half, 1 and a half. You can rent there. People own them and rent them out. But you can, you know, there's always some units on the market there. So it's still a good location. There's people we know that live there. I don't want to divulge their identities, but you know, Marina Towers, yeah, it's still a pretty, but it's an attainable, it's more attainable than other, like the Tribune Tower is really more expensive. The Tribune Tower is much more a vanity address if you know somebody that lives in the Tribune Tower, because you can get up to the top where they got the flying buttresses. You see how they ease in one side and then they ease down the other. This is Dearborn Street. They're closing the bascule bridges. You can see how this works, this choreography of raising and lowering the bridges. They're about to do Clark Street. People, there's still traffic on Clark Street. There's still people walking across. So we'll watch them ease Dearborn back in here. We got drizzle, and there's Chicago's First Lady there heading through. The architectural tour boats are still unimpeded as this sailboat business goes on. You're coming back? Yeah, Wednesdays and Saturdays. Thanks, Lisa, for explaining that there. Lisa knows this. She knows the drill. She's seen me do it before. And thanks for being on here. Thanks, Claude, Uncle Luke. So you can easily, you got the internet there, Luke. You could type in Marina Towers, and I'm sure a bunch of real estate listings will pop up with both rent and or the cost of condo ownership. Always look at the assessments. Don't go by what I say. Look at it on the internet. You can talk to realtors. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not here to quote the price on everything. I'm not the internet, but I appreciate you can ask the chat box. You can ask Google machine there. Just type in Marina Tower rental prices and or condo prices, and you'll see some listings there. And I'm sure some real estate agents will start contacting you, maybe even people we know. You can talk to Nick Koikin. He's a real estate agent there. He's a live streamer as well. I'm sure he can tell you much better than I can. So hey, Opal guy. Yeah, it's raining. It's drizzling. I made it to work this morning without getting rained on. Here's the Clark Street Bridge. So here's the Clark Street Bridge starting to open. See this Baskill Bridge. You see how fast that is? They cleared everybody off just a minute ago. There was cars driving across this bridge and people walking and biking across. Now they cleared everybody off because there's gates at either side. There's somebody up in this bridge house. There's probably someone on that side. You see somebody in the window there. And they inspect the bridges when they open and lower them. That's what we saw happening with the Dearborn Street Bridge. Here's the 5 sailboats that are going to head under Clark Street here. And thanks for tuning in here on a rainy day here, Chicago, Illinois, Chicago Riverwalk, Chicago River. Someone's going to ask, where am I at? We're in Chicago. There it is. Look at that Clark Street Bridge. Look at the weight. See how you can look underneath. There's a concrete counterweight underneath there. They got a fulcrum, and this is the Clark Street Bridge in the upright position. The sailboats will fall through here. We'll head under the shelter here that keeps like dirt, and today it's keeping the rain from coming down. See, she's got the umbrella. There's the sailboats. The rain picks up and then it tapers off. We got this band of rain coming through at an angle here. Ain't gonna stop this. Andrew, how you doing? Here the train, that's the CTA train heading across Wells Street. We'll see that soon enough. I'll watch these sailboats fall through here. Driver 2 on the PlayStation. Yeah, Naya Papaya, how you doing there? Opal guy. Theo Wink. Christian, yeah, thanks. This Chicago is beautiful, even in the rain. Yeah. Pavisha. Yeah. So that's what you want to talk about? You want to talk about, like, people getting hurt? Maybe I misunderstood your comment. We're used to that. We're used to people. We're even our own president bashes and doesn't like us. He wants to declare war on Chicago and arrest our mayor and governor. And people act like that's normal. So here we'll see if they do the LaSalle Street Bridge here. We'll keep moving here. This goes pretty fast until we get to Wells Street. I bet they'll take a little bit more time on Wells Street. We'll see. There's the Clark Street Bridge in the upright position here, Chicago, Illinois. We're on the Riverwalk here, watching these 5 sailboats head back to winter storage here. It's always a bittersweet time of the year, fall, because summer always goes too quick. Yeah, the Blues Brothers. Yeah, that was the 95th Street Bridge. Chris Gustafson and I went down there in the spring, it was like April, and we filmed the 95th Street Bridge, and we got to see it open. It's rare, that one messes up traffic because, the Calumet River there and the Cal Sag. But we got to see the Blues Brothers Bridge at 95th. There's right by Calumet Fisheries. We got lunch there. And we got some other footage that was used in the Blues Brothers movie there. There's Clark Street. We went to the church. On 91st where James Brown says, "Do you see the light?" At least the exterior they used. The inside was a movie set from LA. But here's the Clark Street Bridge lowering here. And see how fast that was? They opened and closed that thing in less than 5 minutes. And the traffic can easily move to another bridge. And when they, like here, you could just move that way and just use a different street if you're delayed by the drawbridge opening. all organized. What light? Do you see the light? What light? The band! Look at the band back together. And then he starts doing backflips and jumping around. Jake and Elwood. Yeah, I'm glad you know what the Blues Brothers is. There we go. There's the LaSalle Street Bridge. There's the LaSalle Street Bridge opening. Yeah, look how LaSalle Street Bridge is pretty wide. It's a wider bridge, just like Columbus Street Bridge is wider. And look, see, it's got the French mansard roof there, kind of French Renaissance Revival styling on the almost like Second Empire Beaux-Arts. It's a Beaux-Arts style of the bridge house there, where the person controlling the bridge opening closing is there. So here comes the sailboat. See, they really start to move here once they open the bridge here. We'll watch. Look at the Britannica building there. I know it has a different name, the Whirlpool. And here we'll head under the South Street Bridge. See how the grate, you can look right through it there. Leonardo needs a Canadian award now, yeah. Yeah, Chicago misses you, Christopher. Thanks for tuning in here. Yeah, you missed the drawbridges here, the sailboats. Yeah, here's the merchandise mart. Here we go. Here's the train. Here's the ground line heading northbound to the merchandise or mart station there on the Wells Street Bridge there. So they're going to get as many trains across before they have to open the bridge. So they might do a few more trains before they open and close. At least that's my experience. Hey, they're really moving along here. We got 11:14 in the AM here. We're doing a Chicago River Bridge lift here. There we go, look at that. See how the architectural tour boats can come right through here as well. They don't have to open the bridge for those. They can fit underneath them. It's just a tall mast. And we saw a sailboat yesterday. It had its mast. It could fold down, and the mast was down. Oh, something fell off the bridge. A beer can fell off the bridge, and it just floated down there. Yeah, sometimes rust and stuff comes off the bridge when they open it, nails and bolts, which is a little disconcerting, I know. No, I don't wish I was in New York. I prefer Chicago over New York. There's a reason I live in Chicago. I have friends in New York. I visit New York several times. We've got Chicago live streamers that visit, or New York live streamers that visit Chicago. But New York's great. I love New York, but Chicago's more kind of my type of style. I grew up in the Midwest. I want to be closer to family. My father lives in Indiana. My mother's passed on. I do have family in Texas, but we like going down there for the wintertime because Houston's a lot warmer than Chicago in the wintertime. But no, I actually prefer Chicago over New York. For me personally to live, I do like visiting New York. There's nothing wrong with New York. I could live in New York and have a good time and enjoy it. It's just you know, I feel a loyalty to this city because I lived here over half of my life. And I know I'm not a native Chicagoan, but I think people understand that I've lived here my adult life. Most of my adult life, where you get to choose where you live. You know, no one gets to choose who they're born with or where they get born, but you can choose where you die. And there, look at the LaSalle Street. There's the LaSalle Street station. Sometimes you don't even get to choose where you die because you don't get to choose the day you die. So I guess I need to backtrack that statement, especially in this city. Clark Street Bridge is still a little bit. Look, they can't put traffic across it yet. They can't close it up because maybe they're still. But here's the LaSalle Street Bridge in the upright position here. Chicago Bridge lift here. Here's the Wells Street Bridge. The water taxis coming underneath it. And yeah, here's the. Yeah, let's go back to LaSalle here and watch them close this bridge. London, thanks for tuning in there. MPD, thanks for tuning in. So I know you got wonderful bridges there in London across the Thames, like the London Bridge. It lifts the whole center deck. You got drawbridges in London as well. And we got some of those single lift bridges, but we have many more of these bascule type bridges because the Chicago River's not as wide as the Thames there in London. But thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, the LaSalle Street Bridge. And they're starting to lower it. There it goes. Oh, the Tower Bridge. The Tower Bridge has the drawbridge. Yeah, you're right. That's an amazing Bascule bridge there. The tower the Tower Bridge. Yeah. Thanks for helping me out there. And hopefully someday I'll be able to visit London and do some live streaming in London. I would love to do that. I would love to go to Toronto, New York City. We might go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras this year. I'm going to really try to make it possible. I might take the Amtrak down there. That would be a nice trip to live stream, taking the Amtrak from Chicago, the train, the passenger train overnight. You pop up in New Orleans and go to Mardi Gras in the spring or the winter there. And here's the LaSalle Street Bridge. They're taking a long time. Look at the Clark Street. They're opening the Clark Street Bridge, so they must not have eased it down right. You see how there's some people up in there. They inspect the bridges when they're up right here. This is the Clark Street Bridge. No, this is the LaSalle Street Bridge. That's the Clark Street Bridge in Chicago. And they raised it back up. They're going to lower it again. The sailboats already went through there. They're just aligning it before they let traffic go across. Get everything balanced. But we got light drizzle here. We got mid-50s, so it's like, what, 15 degrees centigrade, but we got 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And they're still lowering the LaSalle Street Bridge. See that fulcrum there, counterweights hidden behind the abutments there. But think of all the steel that made these bridges, all the steel that made the elevated train tracks. Chicago used to be ringed by steel mills, and we lost a lot of them. There's still steel mills in northern Indiana, northwest Indiana, Gary and Hammond and Michigan City. But our Portage, actually I think Portage has one. Here's the, see how it's making that noise there. South Street Bridge. The Clark Street Bridge is back aligned, so they'll probably let traffic start to move across there. You see, just like a diving board, the weight's transferred to the ends, and when both, they have to align that. There's a little gap that you can see when you walk across. Sometimes you can feel when a bus goes across, you can feel the bridge slightly adjusting to accommodate the weight. Here's Sweet Home Gelato, Chicago Riverwalk. We got 5 sailboats heading through here, and we'll see if they get the cars off the Wells Street Bridge so they can lift it, continue down the river here. The wind is hard, yeah. Sometimes we get the wind here in Chicago. Yeah, with the huge ships, that affects the wind really affects them. Torrance, California there. Redondo Beach there. Elijah, how you doing there? You're over New York City? Yeah, see? Positive, negatives, everything. Same old place. Same old place. Fashion District in Queens. Yeah, you get next to the East River there. I'll tell you what, it's beautiful taking the Amtrak from Albany. You go down the Hudson River Valley, and you see the Catskill Mountains off in the background there. It's you go past West Point. That's a great way to enter New York City. You go right into Penn Station there. So here we're underneath the Wells Street Bridge. We'll hang out here to get out of the rain, and we'll pace back and forth. We'll show you Merchandise Mart on this side, and then we'll go back to the sailboats here. Yeah, Boston's beautiful. Boston's got a nice skyline. I like Boston's neighborhoods as far as the housing. You know, you go to Bunker Hill there, Beacon Hill. You go behind where the Cheers is. They got that colonial narrow streets, the old Italian neighborhood there, the north part. They got some bars that go back to 1795. And that was back when I was drinking, because I drank at some of those bars. So here it sounds like they're going to let another train across. So usually they let a few trains across before they open this. This is the Wells Street Bridge where the CTA trains go across here. So here, we'll show you here. Across here. Wells Street. you can rewind and you can see they've already lifted the. I missed the Michigan Avenue Bridge. We got the Wabash Avenue Bridge, the State Street Bridge, the Dearborn Clark and LaSalle Street bridges are already been opened and closed, and we got that on the film there. We're waiting for the Wells Street Bridge here. We got 1123. Let me clear off the scene here. And what I'm going to do here while we're waiting for these sailboats, I'm going to set down the camera under the bridge here, and you'll be able to see me. And I'm going to check out the market here. So hold on a second here. Let me set down the camera here. There you go. How you doing, everybody there? Thanks for tuning in. That trade's holding. That's good. Okay, hey, thanks for tuning in there. I was just checking out the something on my phone there. Isn't that nice? I could set down the camera. This nice, this new gimbal I have, the Osmo, the DJI Osmo 7. It has a built-in tripod, and that's a very important feature if you're an aspiring live streamer. If you have a gimbal, eventually you're going to want to set it down. And the previous one, it had an attachment that I would never carry with me. And then I couldn't set down the gimbal, and I would give the gimbal to somebody. I was like, hold this while I would tie my shoe or something, you know, because you need both hands sometimes. You need opposable thumbs. Here, we're going to be waiting around here for a while. It was a great movie. It's a show? Okay, good. Las Vegas. So I grew up in Southeast Indiana. I grew up in the country. Yeah, Steve McQueen. Okay, so yeah, there was a Steve McQueen movie where they drove a car off the parking garage deck of the Marina Towers, and we talk about that a lot. I think somebody else was able to find the video of the movie, and they put it on TikTok, where you see that scene where it's like a early 1980s movie where it's a car chase scene where they drive into Marina Towers and they cycle up, and then the guy drives the car into the river, and people remember that. And they actually did it in real life. People got to watch it. I remember when they filmed the Transformers movie, they rappelled off the Trump Tower, and we were able to see that. And they did explosions, and they had Michigan Avenue all tore up for the scenes where the Transformers are on top of the Jewelers building and blow everything up and destroy all the buildings in Chicago. And I'm sure the current president likes watching that movie because look, you get to see Chicago blow up. That solves all the problems. Yeah, we'll start over. Perfect Strangers, yeah. So a lot of times, since I live in Lincoln Park, we'll walk down Clark Street and we'll go by the Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder, and that's right across the street where Larry and Balky lived in the show, you know, the fictional show. Here comes another train here heading across here, and we go by the apartment building where Larry Appleton and Balky Bartokamus lived. See, it's heading the other way. I went the wrong direction. It's heading northbound. We could have saw it from the other side, but I'm on the wrong side of the bridge here. You're gonna sing? Yeah. South Africa's tuning in. How you doing there, Bradley? Thanks for tuning in. People all over. Yeah, a lot of the Dark Knight. We show Millennium Station, where they had the motorcycle scene, and we also show the underground under Michigan Avenue and Wacker. They used that for the Batman movie, where he drives the Batmobile car there and it changes form, and of course the Blues Brothers, all the famous car chase scenes with the police there. Chicago is a very photogenic city for movies. That's why they continue to shoot Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and all those shows there. And you know, The Bear, The Shy. We got all kinds of shows being still produced here. Canary Wharf, yeah, you got some beautiful waterfront areas there in London. And we feel like London today. We got a foggy, dreary, rainy day here in Chicago. You ever watch About London? She's a wonderful live streamer. Her daughter was in Chicago once, and everybody was like, Brian, About London's in Chicago. You got to go see her. I'm like, it's her daughter. I don't want her daughter to think I'm stalking her. You know, hey, some random person that live stream in Chicago. Yeah, who are you? You know. But that was great. About London does a good job covering even the royal pomp and circumstance there, you know. But hey, reminded me of royalty that the No Kings demonstration is going to be in Grant Park on Saturday, October the 18th at noon. And so you can watch my channel if you want to see what all the hubbub's about. I know I'll have to tell Chris, peace of Lisa. So I've had these people that I've never seen or heard from the entire 2.5 years I've been live streaming on any platform. And all of a sudden they pop up and they said, we didn't know you were a radical leftist. We didn't know you were against the Trump administration. We're shocked by your content. I'm like, my content's tame. I show like people speaking and people holding up signs and protesting peacefully. There's some really violent images of what's happening on all sides of the city, not just the south and west side, but the north side too, with ICE agents stalking schools and people worried about dropping their kids off of school, women getting pulled out of cars, WGN, women reporters, white women getting attacked by ICE, forced to the ground, and then they release them without charges. And so who's causing the violence? Who's causing the chaos? You know, it's like the government's like, oh, look, Chicago's chaotic. Well, they're making sure we're chaotic so they can have an excuse to have the Insurrection Act, make us look like a bunch of jerks here. And it's our own government doing to our own citizens. I know it's supposed to round up the migrants and round up the illegal people that broke the law. I get that. But people comment, they're like, well, you should be happy they're going after the violent gangs and stuff. I'm like, that's not who they're going after. They're going after the people showing up to work, the people working at Home Depot, the people with families and kids, and you know, and they leave the kid there on the street, you know, and is that responsible? You know, intimidating U.S. citizens. What happened to Ernesto? You know, and somebody had the audacity to, in the comments, you can look at it on YouTube. It was on in response to what Ernie went to. What Ernie went to, he's a U.S. citizen. He was profiled because the U.S. Supreme Court says it's okay to profile. ICE can profile people. If you speak Spanish or you look too brown, they can profile you. He's a U.S. citizen. They threw him off on the hood of a car, put a taser in his ribs, and demanded he show proof of citizenship. He showed him his real ID. That didn't work. He showed him his Social Security card. He was literally carrying his Social Security card. They released him after 5 minutes, and somebody said, oh, he was detained for 5 minutes. He should be, you know, they act like it was no big deal. Ernie might be detained again. He might be profiled again. As long as ICE is in Chicago, he's going to have to deal with somebody from behind will grab him, throw him up and say, demand proof of citizenship. This is not the America I want to live in, and I suffer from white privilege. I bring up the fact, if it was me walking there instead of Ernie, would they have slammed me up the head of the car? And if they would, it's just as wrong, but I feel like they wouldn't, because they're like, oh, there's a white guy, he must be an American, you know, and like, I work with a lot of European immigrants that have accents from Eastern Europe. Are they getting detained? No. You know, so we know what's going on. We know what this administration wants to do, and they want to gaslight everybody. And that's why, please show up if you can, if you want to. I'm not trying to coerce anybody. Think for yourself. I expect people to disagree with what I say, but show up to the No Kings protest there if you want. Peaceful protest in Chicago, Grant Park, Saturday, October the 18th at noon. Here's the Wells Street Bridge. They're just opening the northern half here. So we'll back up here and we'll get the sailboats heading through here. Thanks for tuning in. I'll lay off the politics for a second, because I know half the people tuning in don't want to hear it, and the other half, you just need to know where I stand. So to thine own self be true, because people question my commitment to what I talk about. So here's the merchandise mart. There's the Wells Street Bridge. And you're allowed to have a different mind. You're allowed to please try not to personally attack me. I'll try not to personally attack you. And that's when have Americans ever agreed about anything? Probably never. And we have to learn to tolerate each other and somehow get through this very divisive time we're going through here in America. Olmette, here's Olmette. Olmette's named after, so Wilmette on the North Shore suburbs there is named after Olmette. Olmette, see how it's spelled there? See that French spelling? He was a fur trader with the Potawatomi, and he lived here at the same time as Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. He lived kind of further north towards Wilmette, and that's why they call Wilmette Olmette. It's named after Olmette. Olmette himself might have been a Métis, mixed Native American, but he might have just been a French guy. We don't know for sure. Just like with Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable, they know he was a black man, but he could have been mixed. He could have been mixed with French. He could have been, who knows? He could have been a Melungeon. We don't know. And they think his mother was from Haiti, but no one knows for sure. But anyway, Olmette, his wife was Potawatomi. She was a powerful matriarch in the Potawatomi society at that time. And if you wanted to be a successful fur trader like Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable, and just like my Métis Native American Indian trader ancestors, the best way to get in good with the indigenous tribe would be to marry a high-ranking, high-status, usually connected to the matriarchal families. A lot of not all the indigenous populations, but some of them, they trace their line through their mother, the matriarch, not patriarchy, what we have in the West, or even Jewish and Islamic cultures. But even Jewish culture has more matriarchal elements to it than Christian society. But here's Olmette was married to a Potawatomi woman, and remember how I talk about when the Indian Removal Act happened in 1830, Native Americans did not have any rights before the U.S. courts. They were not considered U.S. citizens, just like the illegal migrants right now have no rights in courts, so that people, mass men, can just hijack them and send them to camps. Olmette had to leave. He had to. Poachers were stealing. This is in the 1830s. Poachers were stealing. He was still living up by Wilmette on his land he owned by treaty. By treaty with the U.S. government, he owned land, and there was Chicago settlers that were poaching his timber. He had a bunch of land up there, and they would sneak on his land and they would cut timber and not pay him for it. And so he tried to address it to the courts. The courts would not give him legal standing, so he left. He left with his Potawatomi wife. He moved to Council Bluffs, where a lot of the indigenous people at that time moved across the Mississippi over to the Missouri River. And the Potawatomi, by treaty, were supposed to move west of the Mississippi River. It was part of the Indian Removal Act, just like the Cherokees, Choctaws, Chickasaws, Seminoles, Creeks. And they weren't the only ones. In Miami, the Miami Way, the Potawatomi, even the Menominee were affected, and we got to talk about it. But here, it's on the names of our suburbs and our boats. Olmette. Does that make sense? You can look him up. He's got a Wikipedia article and everything. And we always talk about Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. We need to talk about Olmette and Potawatomi. But hey, thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, do I look like Charlie Kirk? I'm going to reclaim this. Just because Charlie Kirk was a Cubs fan and grew up in Chicago, and just because this goes back to Run DMC. This is a Run DMC Adidas. Remember when Run DMC would wear the track suits and people would joke? They were like, "What are you They thought I was a break dancer." I'm like, no. And then now the stupid alt-right has stolen this and tried to take a Run DMC hip-hop thing and appropriate it for their own twisted purposes, and I'm not going to allow it. It's a nice windbreaker. And even though I lean to the left, I think it's horrible what happened to Charlie Kirk. I don't think anybody should be assassinated for their political speech, and don't use it as an excuse to cancel speech that you don't like. Honor Charlie Kirk's memory by supporting free speech even against people you don't agree with. I'll try to do the same. It's hard to do on social media because social media is not free speech, it's corporate monetized speech. And we're subject to the terms and conditions of corporations that don't have to deal with this the same way as the Constitution because they control the platform. And lawyers have ruined the world. So here we'll wait for the. This is the Franklin Street Bridge. It crosses over from Orleans to Franklin Street. And here's the confluence, Pisa Lisa. We got all these boats heading through here. Yeah, the Merchandise Mart at one time had its own zip code, as did the Sears Tower. I don't know if that's no longer the case, but at one time the Merchandise Mart had its own zip code. It was the largest building in the world when it was built by square footage, and it held that for a long time. And it's still pretty large. It's over 20 stories tall, 2 blocks wide. It's wider than it is tall, but it's still as tall as a skyscraper, early 1920s skyscraper, or late 1920s skyscraper, 1930s skyscraper. There's the Brown Line heading across the Wells Street Bridge there. And they do art on the Mart every 7:30, Thursdays to Sundays. They do art on the Mart here. You can see it on weekends. There's the CTA train heading across the Chicago River there. So here we're waiting for the Franklin Street Bridge. There's still people walking across. So once they clear the bridge, hopefully this bridge will open. And you gotten lost here? Yeah, it's easy to get lost, especially when you go to the lower level streets. Here, look at this bright star heading under the Franklin Street Bridge here, Chicago River Walk. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, thanks. Effing Music Man. The Music Man. Yeah. Cognitive dissonance. So the cattle auctions and the slaughterhouses, yeah. So the Chicago stockyards are long gone. They've largely been replaced by the Kansas City, Fort Worth, Omaha stockyards because the stockyards move closer to the source of the cattle in the Great Plains in Texas, the Longhorns. It used to be shipped to Chicago when the railroads used to ship everything to Chicago, but Chicago became so congested that eventually the stockyards were a victim of their own success and consolidations, economies of scale. But yeah, you can read The Jungle there, Upton St. Clair's depiction of how dangerous it was to work in the stockyards at the turn of the century. And people that live in the back of the yards or Bridgeport or Canaryville could remember the smell of the stockyards, or even just, the Bubbly Creek there, the river. The pollution would go. The pollution was so bad they had to reverse the Chicago River. Here's the Lucia heading through here. How you doing? Yeah. I guess people heading through. How you doing? Yeah. How you doing? Very nice. Yeah. How you doing? Yeah. Very nice. Yeah, Wendella. Omaha. Yeah, Pisa Lisa knows. So Lisa, are there still stockyards in Omaha, or are they somewhere else in Nebraska? I know there's a lot of cattle farms along the Platte River. I remember going on the interstate there and seeing a lot of huge cattle operations there because they got water, from the river to run those big operations. Sunday nights, you go to the stockyards to watch the cows get open. South Omaha, so good. It's still happening. Pisa Lisa knows that's good. So thanks, Lisa, for tuning in. Hey, get your Omaha steaks there. Kansas City Strip. Yeah. Even I've been to the Fort Worth stockyards, which of course they got two-step line dancing and rodeos and things like that. Yeah, it's an industrial park now. Yeah, it's a vast industrial park. I have a video rerun of the Stockyard Gates. We went there. We were in Canaryville when the White Sox had their home opener. We walked through Bronzeville and we came up through Canaryville and we entered Sox Park from the south. And we went to the Union Stockyards. I gave a spiel. There's a firefighters monument there. Like over a dozen firefighters lost their life. There was a horrible fire there in the early 20th century. And the stockyards burnt down several times. There would always be fires and crazy things would happen. Nebraska in the house. Yeah, Pizza Lisa. Hey, how you doing there? Kevin Krause, thanks for tuning in there. Yeah. You sail through? Yeah. Mamby T's tuning in there. T-Lime, Tea Time. Rapunzel, let down your hair. Rose Corner. Yeah, we can publish. We need total transparency. Release all the information there. There's the, I think that's a green line heading across Lake Street. So you see, I told you it would take, I thought the Wells Street Bridge would take longer. They're waiting to open the Franklin Street Bridge here. We got 1143 Chicago River Walk here. Here comes the Skyview. Hopefully the rain's tapering off. The rain just it's just like this new, very pesky drizzle. Here comes the Skyview, large bars, shoreline sightseeing, Chicago, Illinois. This is the confluence of North-South Branch, Chicago River. There goes the Franklin Street Bridge. There it goes. There's the Franklin Street Bridge. Starting to open there with watching sailboats. Here comes the shoreline, large barge. Yeah, look at that. See, they're taking photos too. Very nice. Yeah, there it is. Chicago River Walk. There's the Franklin Street Bridge opening. Merchandise Mart. Baskill Bridge. Got sirens behind me. So here, let's look at this thing. Let's get closer here. Franklin Street Bridge. See, Wacker Drive, lower Wacker Drive's there. There's upper Wacker Drive. This is Franklin Street Merchandise Mart, Chicago, Illinois. There's the Salesforce Tower right there. You see how it's perfectly balanced on the fulcrum there. You got a counterweight underneath the abutments. Here goes the sailboat heading underneath the Franklin Street Bridge. That's why they're lifting it so the sailboats can go into their winter dry storage in there. If I lift this, can you look in there? Can you see there's a concrete counterweight down behind there? And there's that big void that actually goes underneath the river, and they got it on that side too. See, something came off the bridge and it hit the, thankful that protective covering there so it doesn't hit my head. But here, let's head back here. There, look at that sailboat head through there. Yeah, thanks for that information, Lisa. Yeah, I don't think it has a zip code any longer. At one time it did, just like the Sears Tower did at one time. Now officially the Sears Tower is not even no longer called the Sears Tower, but I refuse to call it by the new name because I'm set in my ways here. Here's the Franklin Street Bridge in the upright position in front of the Merchandise Mart, Chicago, Illinois. You got October the 15th, 2025. We'll head around here. Oh, the ubiquitous sirens of Chicago. Land of sirens. Land of confusion. Look how the reflection, they made it so the buildings reflect there. Hey, there's the green line heading across there, the Lake Street Bridge. Hey, we got the bridge lift. This is the first time I got it this fall because we missed it the other times. She's waving, they're I don't know who that is. They're waving to him. Nana, how you doing there? Kevin Krause. Fairbury, Nebraska. Hey, thanks for tuning in. That's good. China, America. Yeah, the slaughterhouse. There are no large open stockyards like the past, even in Omaha. Yeah, thanks, Lisa, for explaining that there. So hey, there it goes. They're starting to come down. See how fast that was? So there's the Franklin Street Bridge. The 5 sailboats made it underneath there. They can lower it. See how they lower one side faster than the other so they can ease it in there and align them. See the wonders of modern engineering here. We take for granted these Baskill bridges, and they had to lift these in 2020 when there was the George Floyd protest. They used the river like a moat to protect people from crossing the river. So they had them in the upright position. Everybody was on lockdown because of COVID anyway, or the pandemic. But it was still jarring to see that they actually could, just like bringing up the bridge for a castle and making the river a moat, they did it to protect the real estate of the central business district, which didn't help. People just came from the south because, of course, the Loop's not an island. You can travel to the Loop from the south without crossing a bridge, and that's why the railroad yards used to be all down there on the south side, because it was the easiest way to get to downtown without crossing a river. Here's from the south. There's the green line. So the green line and pink line, we'll head this way. Check out the CTA trains crossing the bridge here. Chicago Transit Authority. Hey, here comes a water taxi. So Chicago, Illinois here. We're looking at Lake Street, Chicago River. Here comes a water taxi, and we're watching these sailboats pulse through here. So I'm going to have to head up. They got the Riverwalk blocked off over here. So I'm going to have to head up here and go across to get ready for Lake Street there. So we'll watch this water taxi come through. And there, the Franklin Street Bridge is already closed. So we'll head up this ramp. And it's going to take a while anyway, probably to open the Lake Street Bridge anyway. But after the Lake Street Bridge, it should go really fast. There's a quick succession of about 6 or 8 bridges that are all one block after the other. So you head past the Eisenhower Expressway, which goes through the old post office, that bridge, and then it really opens up once you get past Harrison. There's only a few bridges to Chinatown. There's the Chicago Water Taxi here, Merchandise Mart, sailboats. There's that Frank Street closed, use Franklin. Okay, I missed the sign. So here we'll head up the ramp. And we'll go up to the upper part of Wacker Drive here. What are you doing? Hey, you hear the metro train there off in the distance? Yeah. So bear with me, I'm going to walk up this ramp, and we're going to see that the workers are on the Lake Street Bridge. They're probably expecting it, and they'll probably just open half of it because I think it's under construction. I see people are starting to walk back across. They opened it up. So if you're making a comment right now and I can't see it, it's probably because of Streamlabs there. Every once in a while. I've only been on not that long, and already we're not Streamlabs just sometimes can't handle the comments. But I like using. I looked into streaming in both the vertical and horizontal position, but people that have tried it, they said it limits your people seeing your lives to the horizontal position. Remember when I used to live stream at lunch on the Lunch Bunch and horizontal? YouTube just doesn't push the horizontal, it pushes them to computers. If you want your live stream to be pushed to cell phones, you got to film in the vertical aspect, which is what I'm in now for your cell phone. I used to try to film this in landscape because it was more appropriate for the bridges, but then hardly anybody would see the videos because they just wouldn't push them. It's just the way YouTube chooses to do it. And they said the resolution's not as good as you think when you try to stream it both at the same time, because it just crops the horizontal. You're not getting as many pixels as you think. So it's a gimmick. But at least they're trying to support the live streamers. So we should get a nice view to the Sears Tower here. We're at the confluence of the north-south branch Chicago River, and we're walking over towards the Lake Street Bridge, and we'll see how long it takes for them to open them up here. We got 11:52, so we might head over there. I can't get across. Well, actually, I should head to the western side because we can just walk along those plazas, and we'll be able to film the other bridges. I'll film as much as I can till about 11:30, or no, till about 12:30 local time, and then I need to head back to the office because I'm already spending way too much time covering this. But I worked over the weekend. I got plenty of hours in this week here, and we're doing fine here. So here, this is Wacker Drive. This is Lake Street. We'll head across here. So yeah, they got the Lake Street Bridge closed for construction. It'll be closed for several years, I think. And we'll have to figure out a different route or not. Let me lift the selfie stick here. You can see there's the Lake Street Bridge. I'm filming over the ditches here. There's puddles. There's puddles I'm walking. My feet are getting wet. Here's Wacker Drive. See, there I am. Hey, we'll go by the Beatnik here. Beatnik on the river. O'Malley Hanson Communications here. Crane Norcross property. Yeah, the Beatnik. So yeah, the Beatnik, they have a nice space right at the river level. It's great for watching the boats go by, and they got some trees that grow through their dining space there, make it a unique eating spot there. Good funk. Look at all the plants. And there's the Beatrix. So Wacker Drive, Chicago, Illinois. 160 North Wacker. Yeah, in the middle of the street there's a monument to the Wigwam. What's the Wigwam in Chicago? It was the age of days of Abraham Lincoln. It's where Abraham Lincoln was picked to be the candidate for the Republican Party. They had their convention there in 1860 for the 1860 presidential election. And the southern states didn't even recognize his candidacy. He wasn't even on the ballot, but he was still able to win the 1860 presidential elections. The top of the Sears Tower, we're not seeing it because it's in the clouds. Normally you'd be seeing the Sears Tower right here, but it's in the clouds. We have a cloudy, overcast day. So here, let's head across the street here, and we'll see if they open this Lake Street Bridge for the sailboats. There's the Boeing Building, Chicago, Illinois. We just left Wacker. We're heading west on Randolph, crossing the Chicago River. This is the South Branch. We got 11:56 in the p.m. Yeah, I'm sure they're only going to open the north end because they got some construction vehicles on the south end. So, let's see if they open this Lake Street Bridge here. We're looking towards Wolf Point, the Salesforce Tower. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're seeing some bridge lifts today. It just takes a while, and you're on their schedule. Look, there's people having... See, here's the gap. This shows the gap. So you see, these are the two sides of the bridges. Some of them have trap doors. This is one foot. See how you can see the water down there? See the gap? This is the gap of the Basque bridges. You see right through there. And this side is independently. The weight goes to that side. This weight goes this side. You see how they align? You can't tell the difference. And there's just like an inch gap where the two sides of the bridge align. These Basque bridges in Chicago. Hey, let's check out the mums. They got some nice pumpkin displays. There's looking down the South Branch. Ogilvy Station's over there. This used to be Butler Brothers. Now it's housing. It used to be a warehouse, distribution warehouse, next to the railroad tracks. Imagine that building too. There's small. Yeah, I'm Brian from Chicago. How you doing? Thank you. Hey, thanks for saying hello. That's great. I'm watching the bridge lift. Thanks for saying hello. I'm on YouTube now, so yeah, that's good. So hey, there you go. See, friends and neighbors there. They're like, there's that guy. He's always filming all the time. Here's there we go. Here's the green line there. Look at that. Hey, friends and neighbors. Yeah, let's go check out these pumpkins. So, brown bag, fair, small cheval, conference center, space available, Porter. This is 150 North Riverside. I call it the Tuning Fork building because of how it's so narrow at the bottom. And they do that because there's railroad air rights underneath here. And then all along all these buildings that are on the west side of the Chicago River here. So if I head up this way, man, there's the Banco's America. Here, let's head up this way. That's good. Yeah, we got a nice fall display. The mums with the pumpkins. We've been seeing some really nice Halloween decorations. I still need to cut out. Last night we saw the flapper, the building with the skeletons. They didn't have the skeletons on, but we saw the flapper and the little Prohibition guy there in skeleton form. And there was the other guys playing cards. Here, let's head back around here. See if they're going to lift this bridge. There, Rapunzel, I'm seeing your comment there, so it's on the screen there. That's good. Hey, Lambie T, how you doing? Thanks for having some side conversations there. Hey, some big pumpkins. That's some big pumpkins. Let's see if they're real. I assume they're real. I don't know. Maybe they're not. Let's see. Let's see if we can. Nope, they're not real. They're just molds. They're just molds, and maybe made out of fiberglass.
Also, I saw we have the second highest.
Here, the small cheval. It's modeled off the All Cheval. You can go to the All Cheval, which is on Randolph. All the great restaurants there in the West Loop on Randolph. But then the small cheval is like a cheaper knockoff. Good burgers though. Same brand. But we're waiting for this Lake Street Bridge to open. It might be a while, so we'll hang out underneath see, that's the beatnik across the way there. Yeah, what do you feel like eating? What's everybody getting for lunch there? Aisha, thanks for tuning in here. I'm gonna have to do another stock trade. It just hit my stop there. I mean, I'm selling stuff for a small profit. And it's just a game I play here. Let's see. Here we got 2 orders. Oh, it already cleared them out here. So let's see. So let's see where we're at here. Oh wow, we jumped all the way up. We're almost to 12. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, the gyrations of the market. Will they ever cease? I doubt it. Here, there we go. So, hey, here comes Chicago's first lady. There it is. There we go. There's Chicago's first lady. Oh, this will work out here. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to this little circle thing, and I'm going to set down the gimbal on a tripod, and you're going to look at me make some trades here. We did. Remember when there was all this volatility this spring when the tariffs first hit and the market sold off, and now everybody bought that dip, and now it's we're still near the all-time highs. It's a continuation of all this, and so we'll see how this plays out. There's a lot of built-up tension in the market, even though the banks are reporting record profits. There we go. Hey, thanks for tuning in here. I'm gonna make some trades real quick. Thanks for tuning. We're waiting for this bridge to open, so it might be a while. So here, let me do this here. I'll be able to do it faster with 2 hands here. I gotta concentrate here. What's happening, everybody? How you doing here? You just what's the mood where you guys are living at there? I know Chicago, we don't know what's going on with all this ice stuff. I know people want me to stop talking about it, but it's really affecting Chicago communities more than it probably is where you're at. And that's the whole intention. It's meant to be cruel. Hey, I hear the bell there, so maybe we're getting close. Maybe they're going to lift this bridge here. So let me do as many trades as I can before they lift the bridge here. Hold on a second there. We're going to watch a bridge lift here. I'm just making some trades here. I'm looking at the bridge there, see if they're opening it. As soon as they open that bridge, I'll stop doing this and head over there. We're waiting for the bridge. If you just joined, we're in Chicago. We're waiting for a bridge lift here in the Chicago River. We already went through several bridges. You can rewind this and watch that. Last night we went by the casino location on the North Branch. They've been really starting construction on the hotel and the actual casino portion. So you can see that from yesterday. Feel like you're watching Andy Warhol's movie, A Man Sleeps for 12 Hours. That's what this is. A man makes stock trades for 12 hours sitting on the side of the Chicago River here. There. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here they go, right on time. So here they're finally starting to lift the Lake Street Bridge here. I'll show you where we're at. We're by Randolph Street. I zoomed out all the way. Yeah, there's the Bank of America building here. Here's the Lake Street Bridge. They're only lifting the northern half, or no, that's the eastern half. That's an east-west bridge. They're lifting the eastern half because the bridge is under construction. See how they still have vehicles parked on that side. See the Salesforce Tower, Wolf Point in the back, the Merchandise Mart. Here's the Lake Street Bridge. They're opening it to lift 5 sailboats down the river so they can get their boats out of the water for winter storage. And this happens every spring and fall. We usually try to catch it on Wednesdays or Saturdays. Hey, thanks for tuning in there. That's great. I saw some places all over the world there. There's Lake Street. See how they got the trees growing out of the beatnik kitchen there? Yeah, let's watch these sailboats come through here. See, we're on this high perch. We're underneath. Oh, this is the 150 North Riverside. See how it's cantilevered over the river. And there's the elevator bank there. There's going to be 5 sailboats that are going to pulse through here under the Lake Street Bridge, Chicago, Illinois. We got 12:06 in the PM there. You see the Merchandise Mart behind there. And this perfectly illustrates. See how this side is perfectly independent and can hold its weight. That's on the fulcrum there. The counterweight's underneath there. They got a bridge house. You can't see it. There it is there. There's a bridge house right there, and there's one over there. There's the first sailboat. Anita, thanks for tuning in. Hey, we got a bridge lift. RGR. You're moving to Scandinavia. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, so Scandinavia has a much better socialized healthcare system than the United States, as does Canada. And isn't it amazing, or isn't it tragic how much healthcare costs? All this talk of the current politicians in control of the White House saying they were going to bring costs down, and that's what the government shutdown's partly about. Even in red states, states that were more politically aligned with Trump, the healthcare costs are rising there the fastest. And they think people won't notice. They think the reward of them having won the culture war, at least temporarily, will offset hurting people's bank accounts. But I think people will notice that it is hurting their bank accounts. Healthcare costs I still have a problem. You can blame it all on Obama, but Obama's long gone and somebody else is in charge. So hold them responsible as well. That's all I'm saying. You know, it's so easy to blame somebody else. I do it too. I complain. You can blame me. Maybe I'm the whole. It's all my fault. But here, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sailboats heading under the Lake Street Bridge here. And we'll get to see them pulse through. We'll head towards the Sears Tower. Sears Tower is going to be lost in the clouds. You can't even see it because it's in the clouds there. And here we got sailboats heading through. Lunchtime here, Wednesday. So here, let me go back to where I was sitting because I got to make some more trades. That quickly, the market must be selling off just a little bit because volatility is going up, and that's what I want to see. That makes me happy. I like volatility. I like when the stock market goes up and down 1,000 points in one day. That's what I like. I don't like calm markets that make you fall asleep. I want Jim Cramer yelling at the screen there, his sleeves all rolled up with his tie on. I never want to be a guy that wears a tie with rolled up sleeves and talks like a basketball gym coach with like gimmicks. I need some sound effects gimmicks, you know, for my show. Hey, welcome to Chicago here. I gotta make some more trades here, but we'll wait for the bridge to go through, or the boats to go through here. What I'm doing is I'm creating a bunch of limit stop orders that when it hits a certain number, it'll automatically sell, even when I'm walking around talking, doing the live streaming. And that's why, if you know how to set your stops and your limits, I feel like I have more control over my trading because I'm not trading on emotion. I'm trading on pure math and the numbers. When the market hits it, the decision's already made because I already set the pop here. You know, it's just... So people are still walking across Randolph. So we might have to wait a few minutes here. The shoreline just went in. Here comes a large water taxi. You can see these 5 sailboats are waiting for the Randolph Street. There, they're starting to ring the bell here, so we'll see how long it takes them to clear this off here. So let me get some trades in really quick here. I'll aim the camera towards the bridge here, so we won't miss it here. There we go. Good. Hey, if you just joined, we're in Chicago. We're waiting for the Randolph Street Bridge here to open here. I got the camera sitting on a tripod. I'm making some trades here, so we'll, as soon as this bridge starts to go up, we'll jump up and we'll document here. Hey, they started ringing the bell and then they stopped. So there's still people walking across. So here, yeah, see. go. Okay, good. I got enough trades in. This should set me for a while here. So there's the green line heading across the Lake Street Bridge. Thanks for your patience. I apologize for making you wait there. Look at nothing, but I had to get some. The market never sleeps. There's always usually the market's been so dull and boring for the past 3 months that I really haven't had to make much trades. But now I fully expect the longer this government shutdown goes on, we might go down through a more volatile period. And then we still don't know the long-term effects of the tariffs, and it seems like the president announces a new tariff every day now. He goes through a period where something will get under his crawl there, and he wants to change the subject. Here's the green line. Here's the green line heading across the Lake Street Bridge here. We're in Chicago. We're watching the bridge lift. All these sailboats are pulsing through the river here. Hey, we made it to Lake Street. We started at Wabash. I missed the Michigan Avenue Bridge because they start early. We got Wabash, State, Dearborn, Clark, LaSalle, Wells, Franklin, Lake, and now we're to Randolph. They cleared people off, so maybe they're going to lift this bridge. So we'll stick around here and see if they closed traffic. They closed people from walking across it. They're suspecting the bridge. You see over here, there's some guys in orange vests that are signaling the bridge house, which is there. This is a very modern looking bridge house. We were waiting in this little circle thing here. Yeah, we got delicious foods here. You can go to the Beatnik kitchen there. There's the pink line heading across. Very active tracks there. And can you believe those limits I just put? They've already been hit. The market must be selling off because every time I set a new thing, it immediately hits. Let me check CNBC to see what's affecting the market today here. It always hits like when I don't want it to hit, like when I want to do something else. It seems like that's when. Oops, get the wrong score. Get the wrong guy. But hey, I posted that Paul Anka clip from a year ago where there's CNBC. Here, I hear the bell. I hear the bells. Now the Dow's only down 212. It's not that much, but it's because it dropped so much on Friday that the volatility. Let's see what the VIX. The VIX at 22. So I like the VIX when it's above 20. If the VIX gets above 30, I'll get really happy because then all kinds of interesting things can happen. The VIX is the volatility index. It's based upon the S&P 500, and actually it's based upon the options. But it's horrible if you play the derivatives because the contango, it's a constant roll, and you got to have backwardation. You got to have backwardation. It's a futures term of how it's like a futures market for volatility. And I like it because it's so esoteric and it's a true derivative that'll probably crash the market one day, and that's what I want to happen. Here's I'm a weirdo. Here's not that I want America to fail. I just want Wall Street to fail. But usually if Wall Street fails, America fails. Here's and they know that they're too big to fail. Here's the pink line. Here's the green line. Let's get back. They're going to open all these people are getting ready for them to open the Randolph Street Bridge here. So here's Chicago, Illinois here. Sailboats are pulsing through. They ding the bell here. And we'll see if they lift this Randolph Street Bridge here. We'll get by so we can see the masts. See how tall the masts are. That's why they got to lift the drawbridges. The sailboat masts are taller than. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Hey, are you watching? Hey, yeah, that's good. Hey, Brian, really Chicago. That's great. There, there's our friends there on the boat there. Zoom in there and get them there. They're waving to us. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, how you doing? Hey, thanks for saying hello. That's great. Andale, yeah. There we go. Look at that. Yeah, they're gonna head through there. Our friends there. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. See, they wave to us on the boat. Probably later we'll see as long as they go on a Wednesday, they might go on a Saturday. We see that group of guys where 2 years ago we sung Happy Birthday to Randy there. They knew we got some guy named Randy. I think it was one of the guy's father. I'm not for sure. The captain of the boat. We see those guys. Those guys are so much fun, and these people are fun too. They probably remember me from filming in past years. Here's the Randolph Street Bridge here, and it's a lot of waiting around. Sometimes I lament covering these bridge lifts because, you know, I like them. Not everybody else likes them, but it's a lot of waiting around. And I used to never like pay attention to them until live streaming, and now I'm like, this is like one of the most interesting things that happens in Chicago when they do these bridge lifts. And you get these dramatic shots with the skylines and the bridges open. And it happens every spring and fall. Several chances to see it. You know, you can't see. You can see it on weekends, on Saturdays. We might even see it. Well, this Saturday we're going to do the No Kings. The No Kings is at noon on. So we might be walking by when they're doing it on Saturday because I plan to cover the No Kings protest there in Grant Park at noon on Saturday, October the 18th. They're the No Kings. And I guess they're going to have in other cities as well. See, here's the architectural shoreline, the large barge you're heading through. They got nobody on here, but let's see if they get this bridge. Everybody's waiting around here. We got 12:19, and I'm hoping this will go pretty fast once they get through here. There it goes. There goes the Randolph Street Bridge. They just started to open it there, and they're just opening the western half. They're only opening just enough for these sailboats to get through. And we'll show you what this thing looks like in the upright position. We can walk behind it. So we got 3 sailboats here. We got this one here. We were waving to them, and then we got this one over here by the beatnik. So hey, let's head around here. Randolph Street, upright position. Loop of Chicago. That's the Bank of America building. And normally you'd be able to see the Sears Tower, but the top of it's in the clouds because we got low cloud cover today behind the Mercantile Exchange. Look at that! Look how beautiful that bridge. You could just the eastern half can just stay closed while the western half opens here to let the sailboats through. And there's the train going through there. Look how you can walk right across the street here. I'll show you what this looks like from the street level. D. Michael, how you doing here? Look, we got a bridge lift. Thanks for being on, Anita. Thanks, Peace of Lisa, for being on so early, because I started early. See the grate there? This is the Randolph Street Bridge in the upright position. Here's the Boeing building. This is the Boeing building in Chicago. Stop! Hey, look at the train. Merchandise Mart. See the sidewalk? Yeah, so that's looking down Randolph Street. Watch the sailboats come through here. See, look at that. It's like a diving board. Yeah, people checking it out here. There we go. Look at that beautiful scene there. The sailboats heading through the Randolph Street Bridge here. There we go, look at that. Yeah, Shauna, thanks for being on. Anita, thanks for being on here. Peace of Lisa. Yeah, we got the Randolph Street Bridge. The western half's in the upright position. We got 5 sailboats coming through here. We got 12:21 in the PM here, Washington Boulevard. Hey, there's the Mercantile Exchange. Yeah, we'll get the train, the pink line stopping on the tracks there. I wanted to come move beyond there so we could see it behind the bridge there. But so Washington Boulevard is next. Yeah, Chris Frost, Rapunzel, D. Michael, Margie R, Shauna, Anita, D. Michael, Gene Sheridan. Yeah, rainy day in Chicago, you got it. THANH, how you doing there? So hey, look at the Fort Dearborn. The Fort Dearborn's heading through here. There goes the pink line. So look beyond the bridge there. There's the pink line heading across the Chicago River there. There it is, look at that. With the Merchandise Mart in the background. There, it's starting to lower. So there's the Randolph Street Bridge, even with the light poles. The western half starting to lower. All 5 sailboats are through. And Washington Boulevard's next, so we'll head over this way. There's the Civic Opera House building and the Mercantile Exchange. Washington Boulevard Bridge here. Loop of Chicago's all this way. There's the Randolph Street Bridge lowering. So it should go pretty fast. Let's keep heading this way. I'll try to get a few more bridges in here, and then we'll have to cross, and we'll have to head back to work. But hey, we got some bridges in. You'll be able to watch the rerun there. Let me see if all my stocks were hit, or my limits were hit. I'll have to start over here. I'll sit in the table here. It's all wet. There, I got 5 left. I got 10 of the 15 that I set. So let's get over here closer to the Washington Bridge here, and then I'll set up the tripod, and we'll wait for this bridge to open, and I'll have to do some more trades here. Yeah, this will be a good spot right here. We'll set up the tripod right here. Hold on 1 second here. Look at that. How's that? You can see the whole Civic Opera building, the Washington Street Bridge here. I'm going to make some trades here. So I'll walk in front here so you got something to look at. You got my crazy mug here. Still people out on the bridge, so it's until those people get off the bridge. Off of Chicago here, we got 12:25 p.m. here. Chicago Bridge Lift. I'm doing some stock trades here because this is what I like to do. There it goes. Good. Hey, here we go. So hey, we got the bridge lift here. Here's the Washington Street Bridge. They're just opening the western half of the Basque Bridge here. You see the Chicago Civic Opera House there in the background, and they're letting 5 sailboats through here. Yeah, all these people taking pictures here, just like we are. There it is. See how the eastern half there could just stay closed, and it could support itself. Here goes the 5 sailboats. They were waving at us. There it is. There's the Washington Boulevard Bridge here. We'll head around here. Yeah, here's the old Chicago Daily News building. It's now Riverside Plaza. We'll head across Washington Boulevard here. Hey, see there's the bridge house. They're controlling the bridge right there. There's the Chicago Department of Transportation. They do this every Wednesday and Saturday, spring and fall, to let the sailboats in and out of their winter storage and out to the lake. And there it is. Look at that. See, look at that amazing. That's a very old bridge house there. Look at that. And it's almost like the LaSalle Street Bridge, but a little different. The Washington Boulevard Bridge. There goes the sailboat here. We'll watch the sailboats fall through. Thanks for staying on. I know it gets kind of boring waiting around for the next bridge to open. Believe me, we waited a half an hour 2 weeks ago and the bridge didn't even open. And at least we got some bridge lifts we're seeing here. There's the sailboats there. See, Andale there. It was at the Andale market. They were waving at us. Here's the Civic Opera building. That was in Citizen Kane. There goes the sailboat. Two more. Yeah. Chris Frost, how you doing there? Thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, I'll see you at 5 there. Yeah, see you, Gene. Thanks for watching there. Lisa. Alvin's tuning in. Yeah, Alvin, you have a good Canadian Thanksgiving there on Monday? Yeah, the Canadian Thanksgiving on Monday. It's the second Monday of October. Canada has their Thanksgiving before the United States. Yeah, see you, Sheridan. See you, Gene there. Thanks for subscribing there. Who is that? Here, I can't see. I can't read that. Why can't I read? Let's see. Somebody subscribed there. I appreciate it. Michael, I can't read your name there. Thanks for... Hey, Dolores, how you doing there? Yeah, Michael, thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Thanks for helping out there. Lisa there. Yeah. So there it is. There's the Washington Boulevard. And thanks to everybody, especially the Lunch Bunch, because you see now that I'm live streaming full time on YouTube, we passed the 10,000 subscriber mark there just last night. And it took us 2 years. It took us 2 years of me streaming every day at lunchtime. People continuously tuning in, loyal followers there on the Lunch Bunch. I would stream in landscape, and we finally switched back to the vertical here. And now we're finally getting some traction. People are seeing our videos. We posted, we did the Chicago Marathon on Sunday. We did the Columbus Day Parade on Monday. I know that was controversial. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, which was Monday as well. And even though I personally don't celebrate Columbus Day, I did it out of respect for the Italian American community. And it was a fun parade, and they had a good time. Even afterwards, we saw them at Mariano Park. And, you know, we do St. Patrick's Day. We do, you know, is there a Pulaski Day parade? I know a lot of government offices were shut down on Pulaski Day, which is good. There's the Madison Street Bridge. See, it goes pretty fast. It goes pretty fast once we get past the bridges with the CTA trains on them. So here's the Lyric Opera Bridge, Madison Street. It's called the Lyric Opera Bridge because the Civic Opera building there. There's an opera house, and then there's offices around it. They did a mixed-use building to help pay for the Civic Opera building when they built that in the 1920s. Here's the Madison Street Bridge, and you see how some of these buildings go straight down to the river. They go straight. The Mercantile Exchange goes straight down to the river. Here's the Madison Street Bridge. They're lifting both sides. There's the Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, 2 North Riverside Plaza. This used to be the Chicago Daily News. You can get to the Ogilvie train station this way. You get to the Chicago water taxi. Sometimes we took the water taxi and would go under these bridges in the water taxi. We got videos of that. Here's the Madison Street Bridge. There it is. There's the sailboats. Yeah. Raising it just a little bit more. Look at that. There, let's head through the other side here. We'll get over here. Head around. There it is. Look at that. See the Chicago Department of Transportation official in the bridge house there.
Why don't you send me a screenshot of...
There at 1232. See, look at the top of the Sears Tower. It's in the clouds there. And here's the sailboats pulsing through the Madison Street Bridge here. Hey, they're really moving along here. Yeah, we'll do one more bridge. We'll do the Monroe Street Bridge so you can see the Sears Tower in the clouds there. You can't see the full height, 1,400 feet, because the top 400 feet are probably in the clouds. Looks like we have about 1,000-foot cloud cover. It's kind of, it was raining when I started this. Thankfully, the rain has ceased. YouTube, yeah, Christopher, thanks for being on here. Christopher Dotson, yeah, please check out Christopher Dotson there, another New York live streamer on YouTube there. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Look at the Sears Tower. Look at that. See, it's in the clouds. Monroe will be next, but there, they're lowering the Madison Street Bridge. Look at that dramatic scene there. We'll get the Bank of America Tower with the Civic Opera building there, Chicago River. We're looking kind of north by northeast at the Madison Street Bridge, closing these Pasco drawbridges here. 12:34 in the PM here, October the 15th, 2025. We're watching the Basco bridges, drawbridges lift for these 5 sailboats heading back to their winter storage. It's always a sad time of year when you get to the fall and the summer's over, but hey, we still got some nice weather. We got spooky season. We've been checking out Halloween decorations. There goes the Evening Star architectural tour boat heading through. And yeah, they're easing down the Madison Street Bridge there. Hey, we got a bridge lift here, so we've been seeing some cool stuff. Yeah. Oh, D. Michael, you should have made that joke on Columbus Day. Yeah, you know, as I often point out, I know, the Italians historically, I think there was a, all this talk about the melting pot of America. We know America doesn't melt as much as we think it should, and white people from Europe melt, but not people from all over the other world don't melt as easily. But a long time ago, somehow a decision was made in the before America accounted for its full history, what happened to the indigenous people, the Native Americans, and the enslaved people as a result of the Spanish and the voyages of Columbus. It happened for hundreds of years after that. The Portuguese were involved, the British, the French, all these colonial cultures, and everybody blames Columbus. Yeah, Columbus, deserves some of the blame, but not all the blame, because and again, he sailed for Spain. Spain deserves a lot of blame, but Portugal deserves a lot of blame. British Empire, French Empire, and we know what happened to the indigenous people, but it was also this vast human trafficking, the transatlantic slave trade that was the result. A lot of them went to South America, some of them went to North America, the Caribbean, Jamaica, Haiti. We know what happened, and we won't forget, And so, and Queen Isabella and Ferdinand of why were the Spanish so vicious against the Native Americans? For 100 years before that, the Spain fought the Moors for control of the Iberian Peninsula. It was a very hard-fought war. The Spanish culture evicted the Moorish, the Muslim Moorish, from the Iberian Peninsula, and that's why they ended up in Morocco and Algeria. And after that, that's when Spain created their voyages of discovery that Michael was adding the joke there. And who writes the history books? The victors. The colonial powers right of conquest. But this myth that this was a vast empty land created by God for people to start a new life was hidden. The fact it was a right of conquest. It destroyed the lives of a lot of people. People died of pandemics and were enslaved, and it wasn't all happy and puppies, And so, but, that's the myth there. So we'll see if the Monroe Street Bridge opens there. Here's the, the CME group, the Merkless. Let's head underneath here. We got 12:37. Yeah, I'm going to have to head back to work here. I'm going to have to leave this scene. You can tell what happens there. The Monroe Street Bridge is going to open. It might open as soon as I leave. It might be another 10 minutes before it opens, so I need to start heading back to work here. So here we'll head by the Mercantile Exchange here. We'll head straight down Madison Street through the heart of the loop here. We'll probably cut through Daily Plaza. We'll go by the Chicago Theater and we'll head back to work here. So Thanks for tuning in here. Welcome to Chicago. See the CME Center in Wells Fargo. This is called the Mercantile Exchange. We're at Wacker Drive and Madison Street. There's the Civic Opera House. Hell hath no fury like media now. That's what it says on the little side marquee here. These are like Zen stones. Look how smooth they are. They got these little Zen stones here. So hey, since all these cars are blocking, I'll just cross Wacker here and we'll get out to the median and we can show this plaque of Wacker Drive. And this is where, you ever seen the Blues Brothers? This is where they come out and they jump, the Bluesmobile jumps over the police cars because it comes out of the middle of Wacker Drive here. Wacker Drive Viaduct, first erected 1953, reconstructed 2011. That was, when it was reconstructed, it was Rahm Emanuel was the mayor. And here is Wacker Drive here, we got the light. There's the Civic Opera House here in Chicago, look how big it is. And that's in Citizen Kane. So here, look at that. Tommy Johnson. Yeah, I work for an architecture engineering firm. Yeah, so I've worked. I'm a city planner. I have an urban planning background from the University of Chicago. Or no, University of Cincinnati. Excuse me. I have a city planning background from the University of Cincinnati. I'm so used to saying Chicago because I've lived in Chicago for 26 years. And I did a Freudian slip there. But I worked for various architecture engineering firms my whole career here. Been in Chicago 26 years. I worked as a development consultant in Cincinnati straight out of college. But I do a lot of graphics. I do trans-oriented developments, parks. I work for landscape architects, structural engineers, civil engineers. We did a lot of work for the Chicago Transit Authority, Metra. We were working on, like 15 years ago, we were working on the high-speed rail in Wisconsin, but the new governor came in and they canceled that. And so there's no train service between Milwaukee and Madison, which we were planning for that. And it was cut out of the budget. Just like the California high-speed rail is probably not going to happen now. But that was a lot of wasted money too, as we know. Here's Franklin Street. Normally you got a nice view to the top of the Sears Tower, but it's obscured by clouds there, so we'll just head straight through the loop here. We watched the bridge lift. If you want to see the bridge lifts, you can rewind there on the live tab. We saw the Wabash Street Bridge all the way around to the Monroe Street Bridge. Several bridges we saw open and close there. I'm gonna head back to work here. Look how there's a drop off for the La Quinta Inn there. There's a La Quinta Inn here. We'll head to Wells and Madison here, Loop of Chicago. This is my lunch break. Okay, the name of the river is called the Chicago River. So we were in Chicago, isn't that easy? So the main channel is just called the Chicago River. At the confluence, we saw the north branch of the Chicago River, and then where we just left was the south branch of the Chicago River. The south branch of the Chicago River connects with the Illinois Ship and Sanitary Canal. It connects with the Illinois River through a series of locks. They reverse the flow of the river, and it's basically a canal where you can travel from the Great Lakes watershed, the St. Lawrence Seaway, all the way to the Mississippi Seaway, and you go there via the south. All those bridges, that's how you would go through. And you can. But here, this is Wells Street. We're underneath the elevated train tracks here. We'll head up Wells Street, and we'll cut up Washington Street. Well, here we'll check out the underneath of the Wells Street CTA train. We'll get the train going by here. Here we go. Oh, it's pulling into the station, so it's pulling into the station here. There you got the sculptural thing here. There it is. Yeah. There. See how you can look up to these. You can see what train's coming next and how much time you got to wait. They had all the train lines there. So you can see it over there. There's all the trains. Nice riding a motorcycle on a rainy day. Hey, they got ketchup on that hot dog? Oh. Hey, if you ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, this is the parking garage. Remember where the parking attendants take out that nice red sports car? That's the parking garage from Ferris Bueller's Day Off right there. Right across from the, what is this building? This is the, I can't even tell what that building is here. We're on Madison Street. Here's the big blue building. You can see from LaSalle Street. That's the depth of my knowledge. The big blue building with the thing. Well, here we're going to cross LaSalle Street. We were on LaSalle Street yesterday. It's got the great view to the Board of Trade. We got the light here, Madison and LaSalle Street, heart of Loop, Chicago. Look at this amazing density. Look at these old vintage commercial buildings along LaSalle Street, the historic financial district of Chicago. There's the Board of Trade, the world's first commodities exchange. Futures market became the Merc. There's Chicago Board of Trade. LaSalle Street, Chicago, Illinois. So here we'll head around here. Look at that. Look how in the middle of that block it goes up even higher. The amazing density of the Loop of Chicago. So much was concentrated because of the railroads and the Loop. And at one time, the demand for real estate was so much. There was so much demand for real estate that they would build over the alleys. They would actually build over the right-of-ways of the alleys. And that's what created the skyscraper. The demand for real estate forced everything up. And it was New York real estate investors that wanted to get the most money for their bang for their buck. And eventually they would cut out the ornamentation because it was just money they didn't want to spend. St. Peter's in the Loop. There's a food court over there, or there was. I'm not for sure. Here's the Chase building here, Loop of Chicago. Yeah. Every day we get the same questions. Is Chicago safe? I don't know what to tell you. You know, I'm not trying to get anybody to move here, travel here, vacation here. I'm just here myself. It's interesting. People tune in to see what's happening here. You know, city life. Here we're on Clark Street. We'll angle through Daily Plaza here, and we'll head over towards the Chicago Theater. There we go. So you see the Thompson Center, they're redoing it for the new Google. This is City Hall. And we're on Clark Street, Loop of Chicago. We're north of Madison. Hey, look at those old barber chairs. Got the straps and everything. They'll give you a shave. Calhoun Place, this mid-block alley here. It's a Chicago alley. Sometimes I walk down the alleys. There's interesting things down there. Hey, you got the old relics here. This is a coin store, but they got a bunch of old relics and coins. There, you get Nefertiti there. Gallery of Harlan J. Burke. Look at that. How do you think about the Roman Empire? Look at these coins there. So this is the First Methodist Church. We've gone inside there. I don't have time now, but there's a chapel at the bottom. There's a chapel at the top. This weekend's Chicago open house. I know I'm going to be really busy because we got all kinds of stuff going on this weekend. Life of a live streamer is always pressure to stream stuff going on here. People are, you going to stream this? You going to stream this? I'm like, oh man, I want to lay on the couch and rest up. Here's the bike lane. Hey, we're headed to Daily Plaza. Nothing's going on because it's all rainy later in the week. I guess they're still having the farmers market on Thursday, and Friday they got the food trucks. But we'll head straight. We'll do a diagonal here. We'll head through Daily Plaza, Chicago, Illinois here. There, we'll go by the Picasso. The Chicago Art Institute. So the Chicago Art Institute's on Michigan and Adams. And I used to try to stream inside there, but they kicked me out. They don't like videoing. They don't like live streamers. They don't like gimbals. So I actually canceled my membership. And I told them I would. I said, you know, this is the reason I'm canceling my membership. I want to show the world this museum and how nice it is, and they don't want to. They want to. And I also, you know, they promote the Western view of art. You know, I know they got some sections on indigenous art and, you know, African art, but they regulate it to the whole side. They don't put it like front and center. They almost look at it like a sideshow, and that's why it's good that we got the Mexican American Museum of Art. We got the Puerto Rican Museum over there in Humboldt Park. We got a lot of different museums that you don't have to go what the official, you know, pretty much the Chicago Art Institute was built upon the private collection of Bertha Honoré, who was the wife of Potter Palmer. They bought all those French Impressionists, which made up the core of the Impressionist wing of the Art Institute of Chicago, the haystacks, and those used to hang in their living room. Those priceless, well, French Impressionists and Van Goghs and Monets and stuff. They went to Europe and just bought those. Probably didn't pay that much for them. And now they're some of the most expensive art in the world. And it's in the Art Institute of Chicago. It was the private collection of Potter Palmer and Bertha Honoré. But there's a lot of other philanthropists, wealthy people, scions of the robber baron age there, the industrialists. They donated a lot of artwork that became the core of the Art Institute of Chicago there. But here we're on, this is Daly Center, went by Daly Plaza. We're up here at Randolph and Dearborn, and my feet are getting wet. I'm walking through puddles here. Hey, they got scaffolding, so I wonder if they're going to do something. There used to be that creepy McDonald's there, but I guess they're doing some work on the facade there. That building needs some work there. It's probably one of the oldest buildings still standing in the loop from the 1870s. They probably built that quickly after the Great Chicago Fire, and that's what the buildings used to look like, these Italianate buildings, and there's not many of them left because they all were destroyed by the Chicago Fire, which destroyed the entire loop, except for the water tower and a few other things. St. James Cathedral. There's the Green Line there. We're at Dearborn Street. Hey, Petarinos. Hey, we got the walk here. Yeah, you see the pigeons? The pigeons were hanging out by that flame. That flame's for the U.S. military, and the pigeons were keeping warm there by hanging by the flame. I'm glad you saw that. Yeah, Pizza Lisa. That's okay, Lisa. Hey, thanks for being on. Have a good rest of your day. I really appreciate it. Thanks for helping out. And Pizza Lisa there, thanks for telling us about the Omaha stockyards there. Yeah. Have a great day. Pizza Lisa always helps us out with the zoo. She knows her animals. And we still are mourning the loss of Jane Goodall. And she went to this many zoos. I'm sure she went to the Omaha Zoo, and she went to the Lincoln Park Zoo there. So here's the Nederlander Theater. They were showing The Sound of Music. I don't know what they're showing now. Hell's Kitchen, Broadway in Chicago. Here's the Blick here. This looks like a German cuckoo clock, because in the Century of Progress, this was a one of the buildings there for the Epcot Center of the Century of Progress in 1933 there. Here, we'll head up State Street. Here's Macy's. Used to be Marshall Fields. We'll go past the Chicago Theater, see what's on the marquee here. Thanks for tuning in for the bridge lift. If you want to see the bridge lifts, there earlier. I had to leave because I got to get back to work. State Street is half of it's under construction here. And Yaruma, Y-I-R-U-M-A. How do you pronounce that? 2025 World Tour. Yaruma? Does anybody know Yaruma? Should I know Yaruma? Here's Gene Siskel Film Center. There's the World Tour there. They got a bunch of fencing here, so State Street's all under construction here. So we'll see. Hey, they're unloading the. That's an expert skill there to come down the ramp there with all those boxes on a dolly there. There's the Chicago Theater making deliveries here. Panera Bread. There's all the bread. Yeah. Here's the alley here, the plug walk. Hey, there we go. So here's the, let me lift the selfie stick here. So here's the construction in front of the Chicago. They had the Rocky Horror Picture Show last week. Now they got this thing up. Everyone's neighborhood to loop. So this Saturday, October the 18th, there's the No Kings protest at Grant Park, noontime. And then in the evening, once it gets dark, here on State Street, they're gonna have a Halloween parade. So I might take a break, recharge at the office there, but we'll try to cover both of that on Saturday. We might see another bridge lift as we walk to the protest there at noon. And here's State Street, it's all tore up. Look, Lake Street, they're working on Lake Street. We're in the vast construction zone called the Loop of Chicago here. There's Chicago Theater. State Street, Loop of Chicago. So here we'll head around here. You'll see the train go by here. And thanks Anita, thanks Shauna for being on there. I saw Lisa had to go, that's fine. Chris was helping out this morning. I know Shauna was on it. It was fine. I wasn't seeing many of the comments. I know Chris was at the battle stations there. Batten down the hatch. We're getting pushed to people that don't want to see our content. And then they stick around and want to cause havoc. It's fun. Isn't social media great? But we'll be on after 5 tonight. We'll go back and we'll look for Halloween decorations. We saw some good ones last night. I want to cut out the flapper skeleton. And we saw that at the Skeletones. The Skeletones, they didn't have the light on. That was on belt. Here comes the green line around the bend here, Loop of Chicago. Oh, it's a squeaky track. Squeaky wheel. Hey, here, look, we got the pink line. I'm sorry. Look at that, it's right above us. Look, it's right above us. Oh, man. Around the Wabash. Look at this beautiful view. We get to Wabash. Look at that. Yeah. So hey, they're working on the sidewalk. That's why I almost tripped there. There's Wabash. Yeah, they've been paving Wabash. We saw last week they had the steamrollers out. They were smoothing all this down. And here we'll head across Wabash if we can. So I know what the NASCAR Cup Series is. We watched the in Chicago. There was the NASCAR race, the street race. That was 4th of July weekend. I covered that. I got reruns of that where we walked around while they were racing, and we showed how the track was laid out. I know they're going to San Diego next year. They're not going to be doing it in Chicago because they didn't renew the option to do it, but they might come back at a later year. So yeah, we saw some NASCAR here on Brian Riley Chicago. Brown line. Here's the Harold Washington College here. There's the Jewelers Building. But it was quite the spectacle. They had a good concert. But I didn't stick around for the concert. Last year we saw Buddy Guy there and we saw Keith Urban. Oh, I saw, I'm actually sad to report this. I heard that Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman are breaking up. They were like a power couple there in Australia. Most people don't realize, I didn't realize that Keith Urban's from Australia too. He's an Australian country western singer. Isn't that interesting? But he put on a good show there at the NASCAR. Actually went out in the crowd there. So here we'll head over to Michigan Avenue. I'll wrap this up. We'll be on after 5 tonight. If you missed any part of this, you could check out. We did several bascule bridge lifts there by the Chicago River. And we'll be back on after 5 tonight. I'll start my commute home from work. We'll head up to Lincoln Park and check out some Halloween decorations. Eventually, we'll get over to Wicker Park. We'll probably maybe Friday, maybe I'll have time to go over there. We'll see what the weather's like. And Saturday we'll do the No Kings at noon, and we'll try to do the Halloween parade. That should be quite a spectacle. They have like flamethrowers, and it's almost like a Burning Man type spectacle with the Halloween costumes, and it's all choreographed. It's like a Halloween parade there. I think it's to get people to shop on State Street for Halloween is what it is. So here, we'll head across here. We'll get you the view of the Wrigley building, and I'll head back to work here.
We're canceling it because we are.
But hey, rainy Chicago. See, thanks everybody for tuning in there. Thanks for being on for so long. And hey, look, see, 1,100 foot cloud cover. You know, I know that the John Hancock's 1,100 feet tall approximately, and that's the cloud cover. You see the clouds starting to fleck the tip top of the building there. And we'll cross here at Michigan. And let's frame this here. There it is. There's a nice view. Looking at Michigan Avenue as we cross Michigan there. It's good. Very nice. So hey, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you tonight after 5. Check out the reruns. Thanks, mods. You guys are great. And thanks for getting me over 10,000 subscribers there on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Lunch Bunch. You guys made it possible. There's Hazel Johnson. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Yeah, thanks, Dolores. We'll talk to you later. See you at 5. All right, bye.